Okay, so I continue with the Virtis H channel of Virtis, which is a full channel with high resolution spectroscopy working in a 2 to 5 micron range. This is an overview, a scheme of the instrument, and here a model of the channel. And this is a view of the detector. As was said by Giuseppe, the team of Virtis is composed of many co-investigators in many towns. And I have not listed every town working on Virtis, including Oxford. And we even had an interesting training session in Oxford for Virtis investigators some time ago. This is a reminder of the technical specifications of Virtis H. Here we will focus on this part. So as you see, there is a large recovering between Virtis H and Virtis M infrared. The spectral resolution is higher, but it's only a slit spectrometer with no imaging capabilities by itself. It is the same detector, as Virtis M, so the calibration shares some commonalities with Virtis M. But of course, the calibration process and the result of the process is very different, since we start from the detector, which is a cross disperser with grating and prism dispersion, with the orders of the grating separated. This is a scheme of each order numbered from 0 to 7 for convenience. And we have to one position in the x-axis is one wavelength for each order, and we zoom all the pixels of the slit for getting one wavelength in Virtis. There is a blocking filter, an important thing to know for calibration, which block the longer wavelengths below 5 micron, except for the 5 micron order, of course. Therefore, the saturation level due to thermal internal emission is different for the long wavelength order and the other orders. So sometimes you can get a completely saturated spectrum in long wavelength order, but not in the others. The calibration process is a little tricky because of the kind of detector, hardware of the detector, and the fact that, in fact, the calibration scheme is nonlinear. We cannot simply subtract the background and make a multiplication by a transfer function. It is much more complex for complex reasons I will not explain in detail. But this means that, of course, due to the complexity of the process, there are sometimes some defects in the detector. In fact, there are 8 transfer functions, one for each order. And the transfer function, which is plotted here for every order, has a parabolic shape. So it means that the signal to noise for every order is very low at the borders and maximum at the center. And since there are 2 blazes of the grating, the shape is also not so simple, which means the signal to noise is not constant in one Virtis H spectrum. And again, this has to be known. All the information is in the data, but it is good to know before reducing. This is a result of a calibration so with all the order reconnected. And the defects are sometimes very apparent. The connection between 2 orders are not perfect. This is because, in fact, there are 2 different instruments for each order. Usually, we don't despec the spectra in Virtis H. This is left to the end user for different reasons, but also to let you go into the highest details in the spectrum. And when there is a scatter light in the instrument, this is usually very apparent at the connection between 2 orders. So that is a signature where you can detect some defects. Otherwise, the orders also are not superimposed because the not only the noise is different, but the spectral resolution when you reconnect two orders is also a little different. Knowing that, we also need a geometric calibration, and I will talk here for the geometric calibration for both channels, 3 channels, in fact, M visible, M infrared, and H, which use the same programs. The geometric time files are generated from the SPICE aerial routines, knowing the orientation of the spacecraft, the position of the points, and etc. The spacecraft event time converted into ephemeris time. There is one geometric file associated with each data file, visible, infrared, M, and H. And so that is in the PSA data release. One, compared to other imaging spectrometer, one peculiarity is that we calculated the geometry for 2 altitudes. Let us say the 0 level, the IAU sphere of Venus, 6,051.8 kilometers, and the second one at 60 kilometers. So it allows investigators to retrieve the data geometry exactly at the cloud level if they wish, or interpolate between if they have a different altitude. There are a lot of parameters for geometry. In fact, the position of each pixel, the corner of each pixel and the center of each pixel, latitude, longitude, and the angles at the center of the pixels, etc. There are more than 40 parameters for the geometry. All that is in the retrieve file. Going now to some science results, and of course a summary, because it is 10 years of work for some investigators, and of course it cannot be resumed in 10 minutes. But since it is the end of the Venus Express, at least official meetings, that's time to compare to what our science specifications were more than 10 years ago, and to see if we have fulfilled our contract. And we promised to measure from the night side the deep atmosphere from 2.3 micron from some molecules, so CS, CO, H2O, SO2, to retrieve the thermal profile from 4.3 micron, to look at fluorescent emission in CO2, which was known before Venus Express, but not extensively studied yet, and to study some cloud absorption in infrared in particular. And some of the results we did, so for the deep atmosphere and the work of Emmanuel Marc, who is in the room here, we observed at the resolution of Virtis H the spectra. So here you recognize in different colors the orders of Virtis H. And you can clearly see some differences are real and are simply due to a different resolution when some orders are recovered. So you have, in fact, to compare 2 orders observing the same wavelengths, but two slightly different spectral resolution. Sometimes, like here, the discrepancy is an artifact, of course, that has usually not been corrected in Virtis H. So from that, you retrieve the abundances of these molecules, and this was done by Emmanuel Marc for these molecules. At 2.3 micron, the altitude of the transfer function peak is around 30, 40 kilometers. And these are the measurements made at different latitudes for CO, OCS, H2O, and SO2. And this is a measurement of deep SO2, which was very different of what we see from the upper atmosphere, of course. On the upper atmosphere, there were some work done on H2O and cloud variations. cloud altitude is easily measured from the depth of CO2 bands in a spectrum. It was shown on vertice M in maps by Giuseppe. It can be done from vertice H spectrum by spectrum also. And measuring the faint H2O band for every spectrum to retrieve the variations of cloud altitude. And this was done by Valeria Cottini to look for correlations between possible correlations between H2O and CO2 altitude. And this is a recent paper in Planetary and Space Science with here the cloud altitude. So as was already apparent in vertice M data, the cloud altitude is very constant on the planet, but decreases in the polar collar and inside the polar collar and the vortex. There are large variations by as much as 5 kilometers there. The H2O is in fact constant, except maybe that the error bars are big also at high latitudes, but otherwise more or less constant, as was observed from ground-based observations by Terence Ranconas. The abundance retrieved in these observations were a little higher than from ground-based, around 2-3 ppm, which is still something to understand. But more or less no H2O variation above the clouds. A lot of work has been done on fluorescence. It is non-LT emission on the day side from CO2 and other molecules. This is the vertice H spectrum on the day side for the CO2 band with a shape which is varying with altitude when we look at the limb for different position across the limb. We see not only a variation in intensity, like this altitude radiance map, which show a peak around 110 kilometers, but also a variation in a shape, which is very interesting because it deals with hot bands in CO2 with different contribution depending on the altitude. This was interpreted by the Granada group, Lopez Valverde and co-workers, and also by Gabriela Gili, who made her PhD thesis and partly on this observation. In the paper in 2009, she looked at CO2 non-LT emission with a variation with solar zenith angle and tangent altitude, shown in this map, and the comparison of models to retrieved limb variations there. And the peak of CO2 emission was well interpreted by photochemical models to be around 110 to 120 kilometers. Interesting point, we see signal as high as 160 kilometers, which is very high for Venus atmosphere. And as I said, a change in the shape. But also CO fluorescence was observed. It was already observed from the ground well before, but here it was possible to look at limb, different tangential altitude at the limb, and to measure vertice edge allows a nice measurement of rotational temperature on CO. This is not noise, it is really the band morphology that you see here, varying from 100 to 145 kilometers. So it was asked to present the outstanding science for the future. Well, I don't know. I hope there will be surprises when you will look at the data from different teams. But at least the projection of what we are doing in the present state is to complete the thermal maps, not only from vertice M that Giuseppe showed, but including vertice H observations. Also to complete fluorescence observations, not only to retrieve the profiles, but to use them to invert the atmospheric profiles, which is a challenge compared to the complexity of this band, but seems now accessible to investigators. And also to work to combine dynamics and thermal retrieval to get potential vorticity for dynamical models. and I hope many other works I probably don't imagine myself. Now going back to the real data, this is what you get when you go to the PSF with Virtis observations from April 2006, 10 years ago, to December 2014, the end of mission. The data are organized with the raw data with extension .qub, the calibrated data CAL for Virtis, Edge for Virtis Visible, VV, and Virtis M infrared, VI, and the geometry for each file with the same number. There is a geometric file associated. And on the PSA, you find the nominal mission and a 4 extended mission with the dates indicated here. You have to know that Virtis data are not complete except for the M visible channel, because Virtis M infrared stopped working in October 2008 due to cryocular failure, and Virtis Edge stopped in June 2011 for the same reason, since there are 2 cryocoolers which stopped functioning after this period. But still, there are a lot of hours of observations that I have put here, and a lot of gigabytes that you have been presented by Giuseppe. So to access the data, you go to PSA's website with FTP or on the ESA website. You will find the technical documentation with various documents, the interface control document, and the geometric documentation, all the details I only shortly presented here. Also, the software data handling documentation, etc. There is also a tutorial, manuals and exercise on the PSOS website. And there is a possibility to access to the same data, exactly the same, and it is there is only one depository of the Virtis data, but you can access them through the virtual observatory in Paris Observatory, where you can get some catalog functionalities in additional capabilities compared to PSA. For the science references, there are a lot of publications, of course, in particular special section and special issues of various reviews. There is a science publication only available online, but which is directly accessible. And of course, a lot of papers. The count was done recently. It's more than 100, if I remember well. So it's close to the end, and maybe I will leave the last word to the poet, who said, "A thing of beauty is a joy forever." That's from John Keats, and I leave you some other quotes of this poet for the end. Thank you.